Hi everyone, my name is Victoria. I am the Customer Advocacy Manager here at Bynder. Today I'm really excited to have the opportunity to meet with WellSpan, who are one of our enterprise healthcare customers. So today, Marco, Ben and myself will be discussing WellSpan's transformative brand journey, which has involved adopting Bynder and our digital asset management platform in collaboration with Stacks, one of our fantastic certified partners. In this short video, we're going to be discussing what goes into sort of making the successful content operations for an enterprise brand such as WellSpan, as well as diving into some of the return on investment that they've already seen from Bynder and Stacks. So Marco, if you could please go ahead and introduce yourself and WellSpan as a company.
Great. Thank you, Victoria. My name is Marco CEO. I'm Senior Director of Creative Services for WellSpan Health here in South Central Pennsylvania, Northern Maryland area. We are a decent-sized company, 20,000 employees across 8 hospitals, over 200 care locations. So we are, as you mentioned, on a journey with our brand and with our content, but really excited about that. We're kind of in the early to middle of that stage right now. But we've been working with Ben at Stacks. Ben, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Ben. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager at Stacks. Stacks, like Victoria alluded to, is a partner of Bynder's. We provide DAM services for all kinds of organizations as they move through not just their brand journey, but their digital asset management journey, from getting started in DAM to building the platform and the system around it to sophisticating the program. We partner with teams like Marco's, and we've been working with him for about a year now to get started and scale. So excited to talk more about that and how Bynder has supported that as well.
A pretty ambitious journey. Our digital experience platform that includes our website, our brand itself, our identity, and who we are, our DNA. We've spent some time exploring that and developing that. And along with that, of course, both of those things comes content, right? And how do we communicate who we are and this growth of our brand? And I arrived about 2.5, 3 years ago here at WellSpan, and one of the first things I noticed was, while we have great content, we didn't have a mature content delivery system. Right now, we've made some great strides recently in the last year or two, really about reestablishing our DNA through copy and messaging, putting a lot more effort into our visual identity as well to feed all those systems, right? Through Bynder, we found Stacks, and together we've been on the journey for about the past year of implementing a system, and then just really kind of communicating to our larger internal teams and groups, again, 20,000 strong. So that's how we're growing and developing now. Individuals have that ability to log in, search, locate, download, and complete their own tasks in a time that works for them, and they don't have to rely on other folks. So that return in the hours alone has been significant.
As I mentioned, we are a Bynder partner. And we provide services for people looking to get started successfully, because we know that, Marco, the transition that you were alluding to, we were doing things kind of in a simple way that was taking a lot of time to deliver assets where they needed to go. That transition from that way of doing things to a DAM program where it's scaled and it's efficient and it's adopted and it's working the way it's supposed to is a lot. And we know that a lot of teams don't have the resources in-house, whether it's because they don't have the expertise around digital asset management specifically, or because they just don't have the time. You know, Marco, you're the creative services director. You're focused on that, right? Your focus is not necessarily on DAM day to day. And so we try to provide a team to help throughout every step of that process. So with Marco's team, we came in at the beginning, right as they were getting started on Bynder, and help them build out things that were going to be the foundation of their program moving forward. So taxonomy around metadata, help them establish goals and talk about what's their long-term vision for the DAM, identify user groups, create a plan for how we're going to migrate assets to this, how are we going to roll this out to users, how are we going to ensure buy-in and a really good first experience with the DAM platform that Marco just alluded to, his feedback. You know, that's our goal. We want to make sure people are liking it and using it. That's been our relationship at the beginning. Our focus is getting started successfully and building that adoption. And then since then, we've moved as well into kind of more tactical things, supporting the WellSpan Dam program on a more week-to-week basis, providing insights around, hey, how can we improve? How can we continue to scale this out? Like Marco mentioned, of starting small and growing.
We were so excited to internally communicate to our leadership. We needed this tool. We needed Bynder. We went through an RFP process. And once we landed on Bynder, I knew we had made the right choice. In the back of my head all along, though, I was like, boy, how are we going to man hours to spin? Once we make that selection, you spin it up and get it up and running and then start pushing it out to the rest of that big team. I knew that was going to be a challenge, but I was really just focused on let's get Bynder and let's make sure that happens. So in that process at the end, I was talking to one of the Bynder team members, and they recommended Ben and Stacks. My question to him was, wow, I really need to invest in a librarian for our dam, because we had very ambitious kind of look at how we were going to use Bynder, and I knew that it would require somebody with passion to be in there. And thankfully, Bynder has the relationship with Stacks, and that was the first words out of his mouth. The rep I was talking with, he's like, you really should take a look and listen. So that's how I met Ben, and we started talking about what I felt we needed and the services they provided, and it just really, really great timing and fit perfectly. So it's kind of twofold what Stacks does for us. They provided a lot of that initial vision, right, as to where should we be in 6 months, where should we be in a year. And Ben's right, absolutely. After we got our feet under us and we got off the starting line and we started adding content and assets into our dam, right away, the Stacks team, they would always say, help us in the moment for the thing we needed, but they were always sure to mention the bigger picture time scale and what we should be focusing on as well, too. So their balance of the day-to-day and the long-term, as far as that first year, has just been really, really a lifesaver for us. It's allowed us to feel like we know what we're doing, we have great partners, and we're moving forward. We don't feel like we're stuck or we don't know what to do, or I don't have someone to help you do this thing. They're always there and always have great suggestions. So just really grateful for that team and to have that conversation with the Bynder team to put us in front of Stacks.
It's great to hear, because I think a company that's the size of WellSpan really needs to feel like it's almost got a purpose-built team supporting them with the software. I mean, adopting any new software always comes with challenges and, the migration of data and everything. So yeah, it's great that sort of Bynder's platform and then Stacks' expertise has been so helpful on the journey. So how many business units just now are using Bynder at WellSpan, and what's the plan to roll it out even further?
Well, currently, I think we're probably about 8 or 9. Our communications, our marketing teams, our business development teams, creative services teams. We have a film and audio team. There's a few others, and we really thought hard about our audience. Who needs access to this content, right? Who would benefit the most from it? And so we started talking about that internally, and we defined our team. So right now we're at 8 or 9. The program we have with Bynder, we have about 1,000 seats. Currently we're about 350 of those seats are filled, and that's with pretty frequent visiting to the dam to see what's out there, to access assets they may need. We have another pillar, if you will, that we're trying to attain through our communications, marketing, and research and development and our digital health teams, and that's self-service. So the concept is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Bynder as a tool and the Stacks team allow us to really take a charge at self-service and implement that. That's where the return on investment comes from. That's really where that saving of time. Now, people say, are they saving money? Are you saving time? We're doing both. We're saving a lot of time day to day, and it's allowing our teams to be a little bit more efficient. In terms of the business units, we got about 8 or 9, but we plan on expanding further. So we have a core team within our corporate office, but we have, I mentioned, over 220 care locations across South Central PA. It's about a 50 to 60 mile traveling. There's 8 hospitals there. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of managers out there. There's a lot of practice locations. They all have needs daily, weekly. And in the past, that was a long navigation through our systems to get to creative services, to get to marketing. And while they always did a good job of servicing them, there's just a lot, right? There's 220 care locations. And just like everybody else, it doesn't matter how big your company is, how small it is, everyone's very busy, right? You always wish you had one extra person on that team. And that's really, I think, what Bynder and Stacks have allowed us to do. It feels like we've multiplied our team a little bit so that we can get more done. We have better interactions with our sales and marketing and business development teams. So we're expanding right now to include these practice managers and to include some of these folks that in the past, they might have been left to Microsoft Word art or something to put a sign together. And
that's concerning.
Yeah. And well, you've been to the doctor, right? Sometimes you never know how many postings you're going to have on the wall as you walk in there. And that concerned us as well. We have a brand, and we wanted to do what we could to manage that brand message, that voice, our look and feel, right? And so that's really the journey we're on. And now we're able to assist those practice managers, give them access to brand or approved content. We call it our single source of truth. That is really what the dam is for us internally and for our teams that we're servicing out there. So we're growing in terms of usage. We're on our way, but we're about 350 now, but we plan to get to around 900 to 1,000.
And how many assets is on the dam just now? Do you know?
I do. I looked yesterday. I think it was 13,868. Now we are in that first year, and what we're finding through working with Stacks and ourselves as we get better at this, our internal teams, is we had a big push. We took everything off of hard drives here or servers here, and we put it all up there too. So now we have the ability to take a look at some statistics on these assets, right? Like what's been up in the dam for 15 months and nobody's looked at it. There's a few things that fit that category, right? So now we know better as to what content should we put up there? How should we be cycling some of that content out of the dam, right? And to free up some space. So
I think Marco, you're speaking to like truly a best practice when it comes to implementing dam and rolling it out and scaling it at a big company. It is starting with that minimum viable product, right? That's something that we always kind of endorse, and then kind of doing the due diligence and then growing from there, I think is so smart and such a good example of how even an organization with a lot of users and a lot of departments and a lot of use cases and a lot of assets doesn't necessarily, you don't need to bite off more than you can chew. You can scale effectively and efficiently. I think it's been good for our team to work with you guys in that sense. And I think because you're bought into that best practice, I think that's a really great note.
I couldn't agree with you more. We scale up, we scale back sometimes when we learn what's working and not working. A good example of that is our taxonomy. We worked with Stacks, we defined that taxonomy. There's a good 12, 13, 14 taxonomy points for every asset that goes in there that we can fill out. And I think what we're finding at the end of year one is one or two of those taxonomy points are not as relevant as we thought they would be, right? And two or three of them are like, wow, we need to actually break that in half and create more taxonomy points out of these particular categories. So
yeah, I think that's interesting because a software is only as successful as it's been set up properly. So kind of constantly revisiting and making sure that the taxonomy is exactly how you need it and what's going to be the best way for the business to scale and things is certainly a big priority, I'm sure.
I mentioned briefly earlier the phrase single source of truth. We had a 7-page brand guidelines document. So for other folks in the business, they'll be like, okay, that's not really a lot, especially with a company of this size, right? We have a lot of logo branding elements, as you could imagine, right? We have different service lines in healthcare, cancer, heart and vascular, all kinds of different specialty areas. And there's logos. Our branding section of our dam given us that platform to communicate to the rest of the teams. If you need something branding related, this is the place to go. So we have that single source of truth. In the past, it was kind of like Jane might have had a folder on her desktop that she knew was right, so she trusted, and that's where she went to get her logos. And and somebody 50 miles away at a different hospital might have had their own thing as well, because in the past that's what had worked. So this has really freed that up and allowed them to access kind of from a single reservoir, which has reduced visual mistakes significantly. The PowerPoints look better. It's working. We're seeing a little bit more consistency internally, and of course, our teams that create content for external use and external marketing, they kind of knew this game already, so it's just a relief for them to know that they have a platform that they can react to quickly, they can use, and it doesn't slow them down. It works with them.
Yeah, we have a phrase at Bynder, which is diversifying the creative base, which basically means like kind of alluding to what you were saying with the whole self-service perspective, like rather than having to go and ask 10 people for various assets and things, you can kind of go in, grab it yourself, and you know how to use it and things. So it just makes everything so much more efficient. You mentioned brand guidelines. It would be great to kind of hear the modules that you're using on top of your sort of DAM. So you've got brand guidelines, and then you've also got
the DAM itself, right? We use the dynamic asset transformation tool. We have the print brand templates tool that we're actually currently right now really jumping into. So then, of course, the brand guidelines tool that allows us to turn our robust brand guidelines document into an online version that people can access. So no need to send PDFs around to everybody or store them. They can just access the DAM, and it's there for them. So Ben's team has really been helping us and guiding us through those tools too.
Yeah, and I would say, I think the big thing that we see there is just our experience in Bynder paying off. Marco, you alluded to earlier how our team, when you come to them with a tactical question, helps provide kind of a bigger picture context to that question. And I think that that's kind of the story of our work, is obviously we are a group that is working on a lot of different DAM deployments across a lot of different industries, across a lot of different use cases all the time. And so we're bringing that experience to Marco's team week in, week out, as they kind of dive into these modules, as they're rolling out the DAM in more complexity, right? So I know that our team has worked with you to kind of say, what is the purpose of this? How does it complement what you guys are already doing, and how can it push things even further, is really where we sit, because we like to say that we're your damn team. Marco's the creative services director.
True.
Yeah, we're his damn team. And I think that he can direct us, he can point and shoot us, but I think at the same time, we are helping him provide that context so he knows where to point and shoot us, where that bandwidth time needs to be invested.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, right? Like, we think we know what we want to do, right? And then we'll talk to Andrew, we'll talk to Elizabeth on the Stacks team. They do have this great experience across industries, right? So I think that's really helpful. Like, a lot of times in healthcare, people want to hire people that have done healthcare things before. And sometimes that's great, but sometimes just having that diverse experience that the Stacks team has, they can really talk to us how they've used that same module with a completely different company and the benefits, and it really makes us kind of think differently about how we do it. Our development team, so I mentioned earlier the digital experience platform, including the website, and how we're really investing a lot of time and effort there to better our digital experience. It's so true. We're refining the quality of our content now because we have a DAM in place. In the past, we'd take a bunch of pictures, they would sit on a local drive or a server, and there wasn't a lot of access to it, right? So there wasn't a lot of visibility. And now, every day, our designers are looking at our available photo content for the work that they have to do. You know, as organized as we may have been, there might have been a photo shoot 18 months ago that was sitting on a server. Then think about it this way. You have a turnover maybe on your team. Maybe it's in the film and audio team. Maybe you have a turnover and a designer or two who knew where that was or knew those photos existed. Now somebody else is new and is not really familiar with that content. So all of a sudden we go out, we do a new shoot, but you may have already covered that ground and already had that content. So again, that speaks to the transparency of using a DAM. You just don't get that without having the transparency that a DAM creates and having that visibility to make those decisions, production decisions. So yeah, a lot of times we don't have to go out and reshoot something. We can repurpose that resource or that team to do something else that we know that they need to do. So that part's been great. In the year we've done it, we've definitely saved in the six figures. It's allowing us to really look at every aspect of how we create that content, feed that content in, and then put it out into our digital platforms. And I think that is allowing us to look at costs and save some money in places that before we just thought we had to do it, right? We had to pay X amount or cover that kind of cost. And now, yeah, we're making better decisions really because we're more aware of the contents. Honestly, the integrations was one of the reasons why we were really attracted to Bynder in the first place. I know it saves seconds, but this is another good example of saving time. Our designers can search our dam from inside of Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign. You know, in the past, they'd have to go to their second screen, take a look at the dam, download the content, drag it over, right? I know, not a big deal. But when you're a designer and you do that about 14 to 15 times a day and 80 to 90 to 100 times a week, and then you have 4 designers, right? Like that really does add up. It allows them to be a little bit more efficient with their time, and I know they appreciates that. We have a special add-on to our PowerPoint app on the enterprise level, and that vendor has actually built their own Bynder integration. We're using the integrations. If there's one out there for Bynder, we're kind of looking at it and saying, hey, can that help us out? Can that help out a different team or a different audience? So.
And I would love to know then what the next 6 months looks like, you know, for WellSpan and what you're planning with Stacks too.
Well, maybe I'll ask Ben, what are we doing in the next 6 months?
Yeah, Ben, what's happening? What's on the roadmap?
I mean, the team always has something new. They do. They have a roadmap. It's funny you mentioned that, right? Like, so, you know, but I'll let you share some of that, Ben, because
Sure.
that's kind of the joy of working with you guys.
Like Marco said, we do roadmaps a lot. We started with WellSpan and what we call kind of our Kickstart program, which is basically onboarding, building the foundation, the structures, the systems, the processes that live within Bynder, right? That kind of help Bynder go. So that was the first step in our relationship. And then from there, we helped them with migration, we helped them with tagging, we helped them with rollout to their users. And we've been kind of serving as their damn team over the last several months, kind of what we were speaking to about rolling out the different modules and providing insights around long-term vision and continuing to do tagging and all that kind of stuff. I know that as DAM programs scale, there's 2 parts to that. There's a tactical side where we got to maintain what already exists and make sure that it doesn't get messy, that nothing breaks, that people are still having a positive experience. So there's that. And then there's the strategic part of it. There's what special projects can we roll out? Things like, Marco, you mentioned, taking a new look at the taxonomy and saying, how do we continue to make this smarter? Looking at integrations, looking at all these things that would just make things smarter and more efficient. It's really kind of wherever Marco and the team decide, here's where our priorities lie, right? We're gonna help them execute their vision. If we can help build the vision with them, great. But at the end of the day, we're here to help support WellSpan's brand. So that's what I would say at a high level.
Yeah, I think the next 6 months, Victoria, between the modules that we mentioned and talked about earlier, is just beginning to feel like more comfortable using them, and how can we apply them maybe to solve some different problems for us internally. Beyond that, I think adoption is really important for us over the next 6 months. We talked for a long time about getting a DAM. We went through the process of the RFP process, and then we got one. We started getting it up, and one of the things that keeps me up at night as a leader of that team, right, of the DAM team internally, is is it going to be as relevant as we think for our different teams? Is it going to be used? Or is it going to be, you know, another app that's maybe a little messy or not upkept? So in addition to Ben's team, the support team at Bynder, you know, so that's just another brain trust, if you will. When we run into a problem or have a question or say, are we doing this right? Are we implementing it right? You know, we'll send off a message to support the support team. They've been fantastic too, really responsive. So it does feel like, you know, between Ben's team, our internal adoption, our designers, and our film and audio teams that are they're becoming DAM experts as well. the support team at Bynder. It feels like we have what we need to move forward and provide better transparency, not only fiscally, but through our content too. So we're excited about where we can go next, and certainly in the next 6 months too.